Greetings 2024 and welcome to your Miting de Avance. I am Alex Andal from the Science Scholar.
I am Charles Bailon from Anglagablab, and we will be your hosts for today. Before we proceed to the introduction of candidates and plans of action, here are a few reminders.
Please remain respectful throughout the program. Avoid making unnecessary reactions and actions that may distract the candidates and other audience members.
The flow of the meeting, the Avance, is as follows: introduction, plans of action, candidate Q&A, and open forum. If you have any questions for the candidates, kindly send them to either of the hosts with the format open bracket, party, / position, closing bracket, and then your question during the open forum segment.
Without further ado, let us proceed to the introduction of candidates and each party's plans of actions. Each party will be given 5 minutes, while each independent candidate will be given 3 minutes to introduce its members and state their general plan of action. Statements over the time limit will be cut off, so please use the time wisely.
Hakbang, the floor is yours. Your time starts now.
Handa na ba kayo? Hindi ako si Corina Sanchez na namimigay ng tsinelas, pero nangangako akong gagabayan kayo sa bawat hakbang. At para maisagawa ito, we will improve academic communication with the CID, instruction officers, and etc. This section of the Batch Council will be led by our treasurer, Sari. Second, we'll release requirement trackers through a template by the Batch Council. Finally, we'll continue the previous council's project of creating batch reviewers for major subjects. At syempre, ipapasa na rin namin ito to the future batches. Ako si Micah Angeline S. Ilarde mula sa 10th Route at mahilig ako sa hotdog, pero di kayo hotdog sa aming serbisyo. Hakbang na tayo, batch 2024.
Kumusta naman kayo dyan? Mahalaga ang mental health para sa amin, kaya bahagi ng GPA namin to. Una, gagawa kami ng support systems para ma-break ang stigma sa mental health. Of course, we'll collaborate with the GCU and other relevant actors. Secondly, we'll be releasing forms. First is, Anong Say Mo 2024 that collects miscellaneous concerns, and another form that aims to check on our batchmates weekly. Both of these will be checked as often as possible. Si Iya Sarina P. Evidente po ito mula sa 10 Electron, andito para tumulong na mapadali ang ating paghakbang tungo sa mas magandang kinabukasan.
Hakbang. Ako po si Benjamin Jacob ng Tetaw, tumatakbo bilang Secretary Tubong Lipa, Batangas. Siyempre, kayo ang boboto sa amin, so deserve niyong malaman kung anong nangyayari sa Batch Council. We'll also uphold information transparency sa documents ng BC at kakausapin din namin kayo about the status of ongoing projects sa FB, Twitter, Discord at Gmail. At huli, di rin naman namin kayo iiwan on scene, so we'll respond to every concern as quickly as possible kahit saan man kayo mag-message.
Magandang tanghali, Batch 2024. May 4 kaming planong activities sa Batch Council. Una, ang monthly bulletin na laman ng ang batch, teacher, and SE announcements for the month. Magbibigay kami ng Google Form para sa announcements before the start of the month. Ikalawa, ang required naming i-host na flag ceremony na gagawin kada second Monday of the month. Gusto rin namin magpadala ng progress reports at mag-live stream ng isang batch congress kada quarter. This way, we can display transparency and para na rin na-encourage ang collaboration between our batchmates. Lastly, we plan to hold inter-campus batch council meetings na explain ng aming president. Ako po si Isa Norsio ng 10MU1, tumatakbo bilang Vice President ng Batch 2024.
Ako si Sandy. Siguro may ilan sa inyong nakakakilala na sa akin kasi 2 beses na akong naging batch officer. Noong grade 7, unang taon tayong nagkasama-sama at noong isang taon na magkakahiwalay na tayo. Mahirap ang naging adjustments at maraming nagbago, pero may ilang mga bagay pa rin nanatili. Hindi tayo nauubusan ng problema. At hindi rin naman tayo nauubusan ng pagkakataong matuto. Ilan sa mga natutunan ko sa 3 taon ko sa Pisay bilang officer at estudyante ay ang kahalagahan ng kaibigan at kahalagahan ng komunikasyon. Bilang tagapagsalita at representante ng Batch 2024, ay handa akong makipag-ugnayan sa mga kinauukulan upang masiguro na ang mga pulisiyang isa sa batas nila ay makatutulong pati sa atin ng mga estudyante. Bukod dito, ay pagpapatuloy ko rin ang kolaborasyon na aming sinimula noong isang taon na mag-uugnay sa atin sa ating mga batchmates sa ibang campus mula Luzon hanggang Mindanao. At bukod sa mga programang ito na makakatulong sa atin, nais ko din sana magsagawa ng mga proyekto kung saan tayo naman ang tutulong sa iba. Bilang mga iskolar ng bayan, iskolar para sa bayan, naniniwala akong layunin din nating makatulong kahit papaano upang makapagbigay tayo ng pag-asa sa ating mga kababayan. Sa pangatlong pagkakataon, sana ay bigyan ninyo muli ako ng pagkakataong maglingkod sa inyo kasama ng aking mga kapartido. Sana ay i-hire ninyo muli ako sa unang posisyong ipinagkatiwala ninyo sa akin. Sama-sama tayong hahakbang, mga iskolar ng bayan, mga iskolar para sa bayan. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, candidates. We will now proceed to the question and answer portion. Each candidate will be called up front and given 45 seconds to answer each question.
Each question will be given to the candidate 1 minute prior to answering. The candidates will answer in ascending order of their position.
We would like to request the audience to remain respectful throughout the portion. Again, if you have any questions for the candidates, please send them to the host.
We now would like to call the auditor of Hakbang. Let's say that there would be a scarcity of the batch funds. In what other ways can your position be beneficial for the council and the student body? Your time starts now.
So, in case there will be any scarcity sa batch fund, I just want to clarify that this year we wouldn't really be collecting batch funds since we're in an online setup. And if ever babalik tayo sa F2F, that's when we're gonna implement that. But for now, so anong gagawin ko as a batch auditor if my job dati was to record transactions? Well, this year I will be leading the academic committee, which will help our batchmates not be left behind for our exams, long tests, and more topics for the next quarter. And these reviewers will also be passed on to the next batches to help the overall student body. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be the treasurer of Hakbang. How will you fulfill your role as a treasurer in the current pandemic? Again, how will you fulfill your role as a treasurer in the current pandemic? Your time starts now.
Since wala naman po kaming batch funds and wala po akong mahahandle na pera during this year, ang plano po is I will be an all-rounder to help my fellow batch council members in any way I can, such as handling committees. For example, ako po yung assigned sa Academic Concerns Division, which will handle complaints and various concerns.
Thank you. Next would be the Secretary of Hakbang. What are your plans concerning the streamlining of communication between the council and the students? Your time starts now.
I think that the most important part of streamlining communication between the council and the students is the revamping of our platforms of communication. For example, this could be having messenger GCs with the class officers, utilizing the Facebook page, Twitter, our email addresses, and even SMS for our offline learners. So through these plans, we aim to search on solutions that would be the most effective for our batch. So that every announcement that is really important gets sent to every single person in our batch, and so that everyone will stay updated on what is happening around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be the Vice President of Hakbang. As a supporting role to the President, how would you refrain from overstepping your position? Again, as a supporting role to the President, how would you refrain from the overstepping of your position? Your time starts now.
Aside from supporting the President, meron din naman mga inassign na roles sa akin. Pero I would refrain from overstepping my position by talking to the batch council consistently, especially to the President. Close friends na naman kami sa batch council. So, hindi na problema yung cooperation namin between each other. So, tungkol sa role ko, ang academic committee ay divide into two, yung reviewers division at yung concerns division para sa treasurer at auditor. So, above from the two, ako yung leader, ako yung head ng academic committee. Yun lang po.
Thank you. Lastly, the President of Hakbang. As batch president, what would you do to ensure that your projects or ideas will benefit the student body? Your time starts now.
Una, hindi ko ito projects. Kung ano man gagawin namin ay hindi ko projects. Projects naming lahat. Projects ng buong batch. At ideas din ng batch ang kukunin namin upang ma-implement ang mga ito. Sa kagaya na sinabi ko kanina, napakahalaga ng komunikasyon. Siyempre, kailangan nating magtanong sa ating mga batchmates kung ano yung mga gusto nilang mangyari sa taong ito. At kailangan din maging open tayo sa mga suggestions nila at sa mga complaints nila para alam natin kung paano ito tutugunan. At sunod, hindi lamang po magbe-benefit ang student body sa mga projects na plano namin. Gusto rin po namin talagang makatulong pati sa mga tao na hindi parte ng PSAI. Gampanan po natin ang ating tungkulin bilang mga scholar para sa bayan.
Once again, thank you, candidates. We now proceed to the last portion of the Miting de Avance, which is the open forum. We will be asking questions gathered from the chat and those sent to the host.
Candidates, you have 1 minute to answer each question. So, for the first question, this is a question for the presidential candidate of Hakbang. You mentioned in your plan of action, particularly about the inter-campus collaboration, that you will connect with the different campuses to discuss system-wide policies. Does this mean that you will be representing the main campus in these issues? Since it affects the campus, shouldn't it be the student council instead? Your timer starts now.
Ang magiging action namin ay yung inter-campus ng batch 2024 lang. So ayon sa Constitution ng PSAI, ako po yung magiging tagapagsalita, spokesperson and representative ng batch. Kaya, ako yung magre-represent sa batch 2024 sa inter-campus meetings na ito. At bilang kadagdagan dito, nung isang taon ay sinubukan na namin itong simulan, ngunit saglit lamang po ang term na meron kami noon. Kasama ko si Alex, naka-connecta po kami sa 12 campuses na. 4 na lang talaga ang kulang, kaya kayang-kaya to.
There's a question directed to the Vice President. As a leader, it is your duty to be able to help the people you govern grow individually and as a group. What are the possible ways that you can do in order to achieve this? Again, it is your duty to be able to help the people you govern grow individually and as a group. What are the possible ways that you can do in order to achieve this? Your timer starts now.
Well, throughout our term, magbubukas kami ng mga Google Forms tulad ng Anong SEMO 2024 para maintindihan namin batch council kung ano yung mga kailangan ng batchmates natin. So, as the batch council, gagawin namin ang aming makakaya upang tulungan ang mga problema ng upang tulungan i-address ang problema ng mga batch. So, bilang Vice President din, sisikapin kong tumulong sa ibang members ng batch council kung ano man yung kailangan nila para maging efficient ang batch council namin. Yun lang po.
Thank you. This is a question for the Hakbang President. You have been a member of the Batch Council for 2 school years. What will you consider as your greatest achievement as a member of the Batch Council? Your timer starts now.
Bukod sa pagkakataon na makapaglingkod sa aking mga batchmates, sobrang saya ko rin na nabigyan ako ng pagkakataon na makilala kayong lahat. Hindi man kumpleto na lahat-lahat talaga, pero karamihan sa inyo, nakausap ko na, nakakwentuhan ko na. Ito rin naman ang naging dahilan ko talaga kaya ako pumasok sa Pisay. Gusto kong magkaroon ng kaibigan mula sa iba't ibang panig ng Pilipinas. Gusto kong matutunan kung ano yung kanilang mga paniniwala, kultura, tradisyon, at kung ano-ano pa. Gusto ko talagang maging kaibigan ng lahat. At nagpapasalamat din ako sa lahat ng mga naging kasama ko sa Batch Council ng grade 7 at grade 9, pati kung pala rin na ngayon sa mga makakasama ko, yung hakbang. At yun, sana maging kaibigan ko lalo kayong lahat at sana mas marami pa tayong mabuong masasayang alaala sa natitira nating 3 taon sa Pisay.
Thank you. There is a question directed to the Secretary. Concerning the mental health surveys, how will you determine if the batchmate's condition needs intervention? And how will you work with the GCU concerning this matter? Again, concerning the mental health surveys, how will you determine if the batchmate's condition needs intervention? And how will you work with the GCU concerning this matter? Your timer starts now.
I think that the most important thing to remember is none of us in the Batch Council are professional doctors, none of us are professional psychologists. Hindi rin po kami professional psychiatrists. So, ang pinaka-importante pong kailangan namin gawin is to coordinate actually with the guidance unit itself. Kasi we, the Batch Council, don't know what is something that we should intervene. However, once we actually communicate with the guidance and counseling unit, I think that the most important is to send data. And I think namin nila if maglagay man sila ng pangalan for confidentiality. And aside from that, we'll just set a meeting with the GCU, discuss the issues at hand, and let the guidance counselors do their job and help us resolve the issues within our batch. Kaming salamat po.
Thank you. For the Hakbang auditor, do you have any specific mental health programs in mind, not necessarily planned? Your timer starts now.
Well, to start with our plans pa rin, syempre we have our suggestion box and ano say mo March 2024 to make sure na okay naman ang mental health ng mga students. Pero of course, ano ba yung reasons kung bakit medyo magulo ang mental health natin? Pwede rin about requirements. I also plan to make sure to communicate with my batchmates if ever masyado nang marami yung requirements at hindi na kaya, so that we could help them with the ACAD committee and we could help them as someone who will listen lang. As simple as that, I feel like we would at least help a bit to the betterment of the mental health of our batch.
There is a question directed to the treasurer. How can you be sure that you will be able to manage schoolwork and batch council work at the same time? Again, how can you be sure that you will be able to manage schoolwork and batch council work at the same time? Your timer starts now.
Well, unang-una, marami naman akong free time kumpara sa iba since I have no club activities. I'm part of no clubs this year, and I'm currently not facing too many difficulties with schoolwork since I already had last year to adjust to this situation. And while nagtutulungan naman po kami sa council, we are friends and we support each other naman and understand pag may limitations ng isa't isa. Pero yun, I'm dedicated and I will do my best naman po to balance things. I'm also very organized, so yes.
Thank you. This is a follow-up question for Mr. Rubico. Can you give examples of system-wide issues or policies that are better addressed by the batch council rather than the student council? An example kasi on your plan of action is the BOT resolution on NGs, but didn't that affect the whole campus or system rather than just our batch? Your timer starts now.
Iba't ibang subjects ang meron ng bawat batch. Wala namang val-ed ang seniors natin. Wala rin namang biology or physics yung juniors natin. So kapag pagdating sa ganung klaseng issues, yung mga batchmates natin, tayo lang sa batch natin yung mas nakakaalam kung ano yung problema doon at kung paano i-address. Pagdating naman doon sa bakit hindi student council, dito sa Zoom na to, sa pagkakaalam ko, dalawa sa ating batchmates ang tatakbo sa student council. Kung sakaling manalo man kaming lahat sa councils, ay makikipagtulungan kami sa kanila. Mas madali nga ngayon dahil magkakakilala kami. Kasama din kami sa previous council. At yayayain ko sila na kung pwede rin ay bumuo sila ng tulay patungo sa mga kapwa natin scholars sa iba't ibang campuses.
Thank you. This next question is directed to Hakbang as a whole, so any of you could answer. What do you plan to accomplish within your first 30 days? Again, what do you plan to accomplish within your first 30 days? Your time starts now.
Unahin namin na gawing active muli sa social media ang batch council. Bubuhayan po namin ng Twitter account, Facebook page, gagawa kami ng bagong Facebook group, at aayusin natin yung Discord server ng batch upang mas madali tayo makapag-relay ng information sa ating batchmates. At sa unang buwan ay susubukan na agad natin na makalap ang iba't ibang representatives ng bawat campus sa batch natin.
Thank you. This is again a question for the Hakbang president. You always seem to use friends as a reason for you to run. How does friendship actually affect the batch as a whole? Your timer starts now.
Ako yung uri ng tao na mataas mangarap, maraming pangarap. At lahat ng tao na nagiging parte ng buhay ko ay nagiging parte rin ng pangarap ko. Kaya napakahalaga ng naitutulong talaga sa akin ng mga kaibigan ko para maging sino ako. Sila ay napakalaking parte ng buhay ko. Isa sila sa mga tumulong para mabuo ang pagkatao ko. At gusto ko rin at marami tayong natututunan sa mga kaibigan natin. Kasama natin sila tumawa, umiyak, maghalip, at kung ano-ano pa. Sobrang dami. So, lalo na ngayong pandemic na hindi naman tayo nakikita-kita. Napakahirap makipag-interact sa ibang tao, lalo na sa mga hindi natin ka-close. Kaya utang ko sa mga kaibigan ko na kinakaya ko pa rin ngayon. At gusto ko rin na maging kaibigan din ako ng buong batch 2024 para kung anong naitulong sa akin ng mga kaibigan ko, ay maitutulong ko rin sa mga batchmates ko.
Thank you. This next question is directed to Hakbang as a whole again. What are your views on the possible students' vaccination in the future? Again, what are your views on the possible students' vaccination in the future? Your timer starts now.
nasa students na yan kung gusto nila magpa-vaccine or hindi. Pero kung meron man, ine-encourage namin hakbang na magpa-vaccine dahil kapag mas marami magpa-vaccine sa atin, mas mabilis na bumalik ang face-to-face classes. And maganda na magpa-vaccine kasi malapit na rin tayo na ma-vaccine.
At bilang mga science scholars, ito na yung scientific na solusyon na iniintay natin para mawakasan na yung lampas isang taong pandemya na nagpapahirap sa atin. Ini-encourage namin ang lahat na maging parte upang masugpunan natin ang COVID-19.
Thank you. This question is for Hakbang's treasurer. Explain the fund collection process if ever you will be implementing projects needing financial assistance from your batchmates and possibly their parents. How will you ensure the transparency of the collecting and spending process? Your timer starts now.
Well, in terms of transparency, we intend to have continuously updated reports that will be accessible to everyone in the batch para sure na yun, accessible. Lahat naman available online. And as for the collection, we intend to go through the PTC, and we will release reports as accurately and completely as possible after each program, and accessibly in various platforms.
Thank you. There is a question for Hakbang as a whole. I've noticed that there aren't that much batch activities in your GPOA. In any case, do you have anything planned so far for the activities for the batch, such as fair? Again, I've noticed that there aren't that much batch activities in your GPOA. In any case, do you have anything planned so far for activities for the batch, such as fair? Your timer starts now.
Nang magsimula ang school year na ito ay kinausap ng ating batch advisor, ni Ma'am Sion, ang outgoing na batch council. Parte ako nun at napag-usapan namin na may posibilidad na magkaroon ng fair. At ang batch council ngayon ay magagawa ng draft, ng proposal para sa fair. 2 drafts ang gagawin. Isa para sa online setup at isa para sa F2F setup. At sa ngayon, sobrang hirap gumawa ng mga programa na magkakalayo tayo. Pero kakayanin naman. Isa sa mga pinaplano namin ay webinar series kung saan nag-iimbita tayo ng iba't ibang mga tao na pwedeng mag-range sa mga activists, sa mga social leaders, sa mga youth leaders all over the Philippines. At meron na rin naman kami mga tao na posible na pwede nating yayain para magsalita sa ating batch.
Thank you for answering. For Hakbang's auditor, what are the factors that influence you into applying for this position? Your timer starts now.
Last year, actually, I received thank yous and messages of telling us na we did well on the ACAD committee, and they were thanking us kasi na-left behind na sila, and that we were of great help by writing reviewers. And nakita ko rin yung efforts ni Bea Panopio, our outgoing batch auditor, and I've also seen how much she effort and how much I want to help din naman to lead the ACAD committee this year.
Thank you. This next question is directed to the secretary. If you are elected, what are your priorities? If you are elected, what are your priorities? Your timer starts now.
I think that the value that we assign the highest priority during our term as the batch council this year is the concept of transparency and the concept of communication, which is something that previous batch councils have done extremely well. However, there are some aspects where we could do even better, especially now that we have offline learners, which we have to focus towards. And there are people who have no idea what's going on within the batch. Also, in terms of transparency and accessibility, I think that last year we received just little reports on what's happening within the batch council. And I understand that they are extremely busy. I think that the batch council should inform the batch on what is happening around them so that we can stay connected and collaborated as batch. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for the auditor. Why are you interested in running for this position? Your timer starts now.
Like I said a while ago nga, when I found out that what we're doing is actually helpful, I immediately wanted to serve a bigger cause and to lead the people who actually write these reviewers that can help our batchmates. And of course, ipinaglalaban ko rin ang mental health ng students. If ever masyado nang maraming gagawin, or if ever meron silang personal problems na kailangan lang nila ng may kausap, I'd try to always be there and check our submission boxes sa anong saying mo batch 2024 and to see if there are any mental health concerns of our batchmates. I also talked to our guidance counselor and made sure that it's a safe space for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your support and cooperations. Elections will be held next week, so don't forget to vote wisely.
Thank you once again, and this concludes this school year's Miting de Avance. Thank you.
Thank you so much and good luck to all the candidates. And thank you so much, Science Scholar and ang Lagablab for hosting today's event.
Salamat po.
Salamat, Nico.